Hi everyone. If you can hear me, please let me know. We still have 1 minute for our to start, but if you can hear me, please let me know, okay? So let's wait just a little bit. Okay, I can see that you guys can hear. Hello, how are you guys? Welcome. Thank you. So just a couple of seconds more and we'll start our study today. Hello, how are you? Thank you, Erica. So I think we can start now because it's 6:15. And welcome everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Helen and I'm a volunteer here at the Spiritist Center. And today we're going to be discussing the topic on God's timing, also the divine timing. And we're going to see how that applies to our lives in different situations. So before we start, we like to start concentrating and connecting to our mentors. And I always say you can keep your eyes open or closed. I'm going to close mine because that's how I concentrate more, and also so I can connect with the spirits, so I can be a true messenger of what we're here to study, because I think the message is so important. So if you want to relax in your chairs and just close your eyes or keep it open, and let's take a deep breath and connect with our personal mentors who are always beside us, helping us and guiding us and giving us the right intuitions, and also connecting to all the higher spirits who coordinate the Paul and Stephen Spiritist Center, asking them to protect us no matter where we are physically, asking them to visit our homes and bless our homes. We also raise our energies and our vibrations even more, so we can connect to the higher beings that are responsible for assisting our planet, and also to Jesus and to God, our Creator. And we thank all of them for all the protection and infinite love with which they assist us on our daily lives. We ask them for inspiration during troubling times, during our challenges, and ask them to protect all our loved ones and all the ones that we have a little bit of trouble. Help us improve our relationship with ourselves and with everyone else. And in this moment, may they help us understand a little bit more of what's necessary for our development. So be it. So, like I said, welcome everyone. Today our topic is the divine timing, or God's timing. And for this study today, I'm using the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is the Gospel explained under the Spiritist philosophy. I also am using the Spirit's book. I'm using 3 other books, and I will, each time I present the topic, I'll let you know where you can find that in the book if you want to go and study a little further. All right. So we're going to be touching and discussing what God's timing means. Why is it important for us to understand that there is a difference between the divine timing and maybe our perception of time, and more importantly, how to develop acceptance and surrender when it comes to God's timing or divine timing, and how that will benefit us. because I think that it's also important that we learn something practical, how to put it in practice, isn't it? So I'm going to focus on 3 aspects. So the first aspect is people's awareness and spiritual development according to God's timing. Then we're going to look at God's timing in regards to when we ask for something and it not always comes when we want it and how we want it. And the last aspect, we're going to talk about surrender and acceptance of what comes into our lives. So in the first aspect that we're going to cover, which is people's awareness of life and people's spiritual evolution, I'm going to start with this book that's called, the translation would be Living Fountain or Living Source. I would translate it as Spring of Life, like where life begins. That's the title. And it's in chapter 87, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 87. And Emmanuel, which is a higher spirit that communicated and brought these messages through the medium Francisco Xavier, that we call Chico Xavier. He says this. Look how beautiful this is. So this is in chapter 87 of that book. He says, "Remember that you are not the one who waits for the divine light. It's the divine light that remains waiting for you." Isn't that beautiful? And this past week, I'm studying presuppositions in language, how we use presuppositions. And when I read this, I can see some beautiful presuppositions, and I'll share it with you, because I don't think the higher spirits, I know that they know how to use language, and they wouldn't say things lightly. They would say things that had meaning to what they were saying. So he starts saying, remember that you are not the one that waits for divine light. So if we get that part of the sentence, when we are waiting for divine light, that presupposes that we are here waiting, no action is required, and the divine light is going to come to us, isn't it? So if you say, I'm waiting for the divine light, it seems like we're very passively waiting for the divine light. And it seems, if we look back in history, that that's what people did. So when it came to divinity, people wanted proof. They wanted God to show them that God existed. So they're always demanding some sort of proof. And we're going to see, as this chat continues, that God has always presented himself in the smallest things and in the biggest things. You can always find God's signature. But if we have this impression that we are waiting for the divine light, then it's a very passive kind of approach. But look what Emmanuel says, that's not what's happening. We are not waiting for the divine light. And then he finishes saying that it is the divine light that remains waiting for you. Look how beautiful that is. And I emphasize the word remains. It's not emphasized on the text. It's just because I wanted to bring your attention to when a word remains means that it started way ago. It's not starting now. So the divine light, or God, or the creator, or the first cause of all things, remains waiting, has been waiting for us all our lives. And in remaining waiting for us, that means that we have to do something about it. Whereas in the first part, when we believe that we are waiting for the divine light, we're actually passive, where when the divine light is patiently and lovingly remaining waiting for us, it means that it's respecting our time to come to the creator, isn't it? I thought that was absolutely beautiful. And if we look at the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 7, and the item is 9, this part that I'm going to read for you. And I'm going to read it because it's really interesting. So the spirits told Kardec that the power of God, the Creator, manifests itself in all things, from the smallest to the greatest. He does not hide his light, but rather dispenses it in constant waves to every corner of the universe, to such an extent that only those who are blind do not see. Interesting, huh? And he continues, God, the Creator, does not wish to open their eyes by force, seeing that they desire to keep them shut. And he finalizes saying, their time will come. So what does this spirit mean by all this? That the power of our Creator or divinity throughout history can be found in the smallest and largest things. You can find it in a little plant or in a seed or in a baby. You can find it anywhere. If you look at the stars, if you look how beautiful, we're starting spring right now. And you walk 1 week, you walk on a street and you don't see any flowers. A week later, everything is beautiful and colorful. And you say, oh my God, that's amazing, isn't it? And you can find flowers out of rocks. Like you say, how can a flower be born there? But still, nature finds a way. And so God shows itself in the smallest things and in the biggest things, like the universe and the planets and the moons. So only people who really don't want to see or are not prepared to see, that they don't see. And this is what they're saying, that their eyes are shut, and that the divinity, our Creator, God, doesn't want to open their eyes by force, because their time will come. So there's a timing for people to develop spiritually, and it's different for each one of us. And in this chapter, he talks about how the different spiritual masters came to the planet and brought messages that some people could understand right away. So they would listen and they would understand that profoundly, and they would change their lives and they would put that in practice. And normally it was people who were humble or open to learning. So when the term that he uses is the poor in spirit, and the poor in spirit are those who are humble, who actually are open to learning, where the other ones that couldn't see are the ones that thought that they already knew the truth. They were not able to have openness for a new message or a new point of view. But the message continues to come constantly, everywhere. And like they said, all across the universe and on our planet as well. And Hamed, in Changing Attitudes, and it's in chapter 13, which is the right time. Look at what he says, which is aligned with that. This that's in the gospel, it was brought 200 years ago. And Hamed and Emmanuel, it was 150 years after the spirits gave these teachings to Kardec. So Hamed said, constantly the divine organization emits ideas of progress and development, with each individual absorbing the seed according to their possibility and their existential skills. So it's constantly giving to everyone. So the divine intelligence is constantly sending the message to everyone. But what Hamed is saying is that we can only grasp that which is related to our level of understanding, which is perfectly fine. And that's the difference between ourselves and divinity and God. because we want everything resolved very quickly, whereas God will wait. He's waiting, isn't it? Isn't that what Emmanuel said, that the divine light is waiting for us? And in the same chapter, Hamed says that when we observe a garden and we see different plants, and we see some of them have blossomed and bloomed, and some are still taking time. We never criticize that flower because it's taking more time than the other, because we know that there's factors around that. It might be the soil, it might be that the seed only started sprouting after the other seeds, and we respect that time. So what he asks us is that we have the same love and patience towards our fellow human being, because they, and we, like flowers in the divine garden, which is planet Earth, we all will blossom and develop in different times. And we have to give our fellow humans that grace, that they can have the time to develop and align our understanding with God's understanding, which is infinitely loving. So the spiritual teaching will not be comprehended by everyone. So it will come to us and we will comprehend according to our development. And so in the gospel, that's what the spirits were telling us, that God patiently awaits and lovingly awaits for our time to develop. Continuing, our second aspect is when we sometimes don't understand God's timing, when we want things in our lives and things do not happen like we want. So who here has planned a lot and then nothing went the way that they wanted it? I'm sure everyone's going to raise their hand, because sometimes that's what happens. We make all our plans and we do everything, and then things go different. Sometimes it goes very different. And sometimes even challenges present. And how do we understand that? So that's our second topic in regards to God's timing. So why is it that we sometimes don't get what we want and we get what we do not want? So if we look at the Spirit's book, and this is in question 983, the spirits responding to Kardec, they say, listen to this. This is so interesting. They say this: a spirit that chooses a physical life without any significant trials risks falling into a sort of complacency that's not conducive to progress. What does he mean in that part? So he says that the spirit that chooses a physical life that doesn't have that much challenge, they might fall into a very comfortable space that's not good for progress. And we're here in this physical realm to progress our development. And he continues that sooner or later, the spirit will have to return to the path of progress, which requires productive experience in the physical realm. So what's he saying? So if we have a life that doesn't present itself with that many trials and tribulations, and we're not stimulated to grow, we might accommodate and plateau, let's say. And then we will have to go back to the path of progress. And he called productive experiences from a higher spirit. That would be the language. For us here on planet Earth, it would be a very hard life or a life with a lot of challenges. But for them, it's a productive experience. And why do I say that I believe that's what they mean? Because nowadays in psychology, in every other study of human behavior, we know that the human being grows much more when it steps out of a comfort zone. So when everything is very comfortable, we don't grow as much as when we stretch ourselves, or we're in a position where we don't know how to do things. So we're stretched to learn and to do things differently and to think differently and to learn new skills. So that's why it made me believe that when a higher spirit says that if we don't have that much challenges, we might come back in a productive experience, and that productive experience is being out of our comfort zone so we can grow. So sometimes what happens that's not according to our understanding of if this is right for me or what we want, it's because God is seeing everything from a higher perspective. And I want you to think about this. God is helping every living being to develop constantly, every single time, every single place around the planet. So he's not just helping me evolve. He's helping all of you that's watching this evolve at the same time, addressing all our individual needs. Because I have an individual need to develop myself, but whoever it is, you that are listening to this has a different need. And because he loves all of us the same way, he wants all of us to grow. So he doesn't stop taking care of me to take care of you. So he's taking care of everyone all the time, everywhere around the universe. It's not even around planet Earth, it's around the universe. And what does that mean? It means that sometimes, because he can see from a different perspective, which is a higher perspective, maybe what's happening to me and what I want at this moment will have a very negative ripple effect for myself and for other people around me. Not only for myself, but other people around me. And that's why we only get what we ask maybe 5-10 years later. And when we look back, and that's a benefit of becoming older, because you can look back and you have many years to kind of look at the picture, you can see that some things happen exactly at the right time. And it's exactly at the right time because you could actually take advantage more because you're more mature, you have more understanding, and that would benefit people around you. So we have to keep that in mind when we think of God's timing. There's a series on Netflix called Connected, and it talks about how everything is interconnected. And there's one that I really liked that it says that the sand in the Sahara Desert and some particles from the desert, it gets carried away all the way to the Amazon forest, and there it serves as fertilizer and as nutrients to the largest rainforest on the planet, and it comes from the desertic Sahara Desert. And isn't that amazing? Please watch it. I think it's the second episode where he says that this tons of sand migrates from the Sahara Desert through the air and gets there, and it helps the forest becomes the forest. So can you imagine, how can we, in our small point of view, understand everything that's going on? I don't know if you remember. Let me just check the time. I don't know if you remember, but a while ago, probably in the 90s, a group of scientists created something called the biosphere. It was the Biosphere Project. And they wanted to see if they could create an environment that was a closed environment that mimicked a sustainable environment, just in case, say, for example, they wanted to create a city on the moon, which is not a hospitable place because it doesn't have water, or at least we don't know if it has water, the moon, and maybe they wanted to live there. So they were trying to create this man-made environment. So these 6 or 8 scientists, I can't remember the number, they went into this place and they were locked in this place. And there was plants, animals, and they had to maintain the quality of the air, the quality of the water, the food. They had to maintain an ecological balance within that biosphere. They learned a lot with that process. And one of the things that they learned is that it is very hard to control and make the environment safe. And here we are, all of us humans, completely oblivious that that's happening all the time. That the divine intelligence is balancing, like the Sahara Desert, the sand fertilizing the Amazon forest, and that consequently balances other systems on the planet. So if we couldn't create that environment in that little place, imagine the divine intelligence, how many variables has to be balanced. And that's when we understand that sometimes my timing is not aligned with the divine timing, because I'm only thinking in what I understand of life. Whereas the divine timing, or God, is coordinating or orchestrating, which I think is a better word, because it seems like all that harmony, isn't it? Everything around the universe, so it's in perfect balance, and that every being is evolving. And it's evolving, and things that they need to go through are happening to them. So I thought that that was very interesting. And if you want to see, you can see that on Netflix. It's not spiritual or anything, but it's very interesting. And if we look at the book Words of Eternal Life, and it's in chapter 105, Emmanuel says, because what do we do if we know that there's a divine timing, and sometimes our action doesn't follow through or doesn't happen? So what do? He says that we have to continue, we have to do. He says, so plan and take action. Use your intelligence, exercise authority, select your words, mobilize your relationships, seize your relationships, invest your money, progress your work, mark your presence wherever you are. But he finishes saying that we have to keep in mind that despite doing all that, things can go according to what we want, because that's aligned with our development, or not. That there's a higher purpose behind everything, and that we have to learn how to deal with that. And if we look at the Spirits book in question 529, look at what the spirits said to Kardec, the higher spirits. They answered this: what the divine mind has designed will take place. Time changes, and difficulties will not happen outside the divine plan. So if a difficulty happens, it's not outside the divine plan. It's inside the divine plan. It's not in our plan, but it's in the divine plan. So it's because we're seeing it from a lower perspective. And like a man on the top of a mountain can see more what's happening around, whereas we at the bottom of the mountain, maybe we can't see a danger coming up. And the man on the top can say, look, I'm not going to let you go there because there's something dangerous here. We can't see it, but God is always looking after us. So how can we conclude this if we know that, first, there's a divine time for our development? There's also a divine plan, that sometimes our plan is not according to the divine plan, but it doesn't mean that the divine plan is wrong in regards to us. Because God, like I said, is always helping every living being to become their best, all the time, all around the universe. So it comes to the last topic, which is surrender and acceptance. And we're going to talk about how can we learn how to surrender and accept? Because it's easy to say, but it's not that easy to do. When hardship presents to us, We get very defensive, we get scared, we get uncertain. We're very frightened about things we don't know, things that are not like we can't control. And actually, we can't control anything if we're completely honest. And this whole pandemic came to show us that we really can't. So maybe that's one of the lessons that we have to take, that although we can't control, there is another force, an intelligent and loving force that's controlling all. And some people that had near-death experiences, that's when the heart stops and it seems like that they're dead, and then they come back. Sometimes they visit and they see spirits, and most of them say that they see their whole life as a movie very quickly, and that when they see the whole life story in front of their eyes, they can make connections. They can understand why they went through some difficult challenges, and sometimes they can even see how that links to a different life. And when they come back and they start living their lives again, they are extremely calm and confident. They know that they're in good hands. They know that there's a reason for all that. So they have this blessing, and they normally share with family and friends, and sometimes they don't understand. So have a look at that, and you'll see that when they come back, they are 100% sure that there's a loving intelligence taking care of everything. And that helps them surrender and accept what comes their way. And the other place where I saw that was, I was looking at how Buddha became enlightened. And it said that there were 3 phases to his enlightenment. And the first, he was in deep meditation, and he could access very easily his past lives. And he could see in the first phase of his enlightenment, he could see the connection between all his lives and how karma played out. And that brought him to a first step of enlightenment. The second step, he was in deep meditation again, and he could see everyone's lives and his lives, like the many lives that he lived and people's many lives, and how that connected, and how karma played out, and how things happen in different times for different reasons. And when he understood, then he went to his second phase of enlightenment. And then in the third phase of enlightenment was when he understood that everything has a connection, and it has a perfect timing for everyone and for everything. And that's when he got enlightened. What he says, he got enlightened. So I'll finalize. Let me see, I think it's time. Yep. So I'll finalize with the same words that I began, because I think they're very powerful. Remember that you're not the one who waits for the divine light. It is the divine light that remains waiting for you. So before we finish, and I want to thank you all, I just wanted to invite everyone who's watching that today we have a fundraiser online, live music. It's going to be amazing. The artist, his name is André. He's going to be playing some reggae for us. And we do this fundraising because we're raising money for different charities, and also to support all the programs that our Spiritist Center runs. And one of them is Breakfast for the Homeless here in Melbourne. But we also support charities not only here in Australia, but in Brazil and in Africa. So please hop in, listen to the amazing music. And if you want, you can contribute to the charities that we're going to be supporting. Okay, so thank you guys very much. We're going to finish with a short vibration of love. And again, you can close your eyes or keep it open. And as we elevate our thoughts and unite our hearts with the intention to vibrate love to the benefit of our planet and to every living being that lives here on planet Earth. And as spiritists, we vibrate not only for the living in the physical realm, but also for the spirits that inhabit our planet. and sometimes needs much love as well. We send our love to all the people that are suffering, to all the people who are going through extreme mental hardship. We vibrate for all those people who are in the front line working against the pandemic. We all also send our love to all the people who represents countries and represents religion. May they connect to the intent of bringing together humanity and make this planet a better planet for all of us. We also vibrate love to our dear Brazil and Australia. And may we continue connected throughout the week with this loving divine God that's always caring for all of us. And may we take this sensation and touch everyone's lives with who we are in contact with. So be it. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'll see you guys soon. So it's 7 p.m. It's in the Poland Stephen Spiritist Center Facebook page, and it's going to be live. And I hope to see you there. Thank you so much, and have a lovely weekend.